What's good? It's Woog. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. We have Naoya Inoue, 23 wins and 0 losses, defending his WBC, WBA, and IBF Bantamweight titles against Paul Butler, 34 wins and 2 losses. And Paul Butler is defending his WBO Bantamweight title. This is the battle for Undisputed in the Bantamweight division. But believe me when I tell you, this is not a battle of equals. And I know that that doesn't sound fair to the lesser fighter, if you will. But Naoya Inoue is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. Like, whether you have him 2, 3, 4, 1, you can make a case for him in any one of those slots. And he's basically been a phenom since he turned professional. And it's not only because he won first a light flyweight title, followed by a super flyweight title, defended both of those successfully multiple times, defended the super flyweight title successfully like 7 or 8 times before then going to bantamweight, winning a belt, and then now defending that and collecting 3 out of the 4 belts at bantamweight over the past few years in 8 to 10 fights. But it's also the way that he's been winning these fights. He's not only 23-0, but he's 23-0 with 20 knockouts. And if you look at his skill set, like when he's in the ring and you're just watching with your eyeballs what's going on, it's rare that you see a puncher look as electric while making his punches look so effortless and easy as you do Naoya Inoue. What I mean by that is there doesn't seem to be like a rare back and fire when he's throwing a power punch. It's like he's throwing what appears to maybe be a little bit of an arm punch, but it's got rare back and fire type of velocity on it. And he doesn't even have to it looks like he doesn't even have to set up to throw power punches. He is just doing it in the flow of a boxing match. Like he's throwing it in a technical way, but it's getting over there with such speed and such power that it looks like his opponents are kind of mystified from the opening bell. And yes, he does have nice feints and good entry points. And he is as technical as he is athletic and special punching-wise. It's really something that's truly rare, where the guy's punching ability just leaps off the page at you. Whereas Paul Butler, his opponent, doesn't seem to have anything that really jumps off the page at you. He's obviously a good fighter, has won all but 2 of his 36 fights. But if you look at his most recent loss against Emmanuel Rodriguez, which was a few years ago, he lost back in 2018 via unanimous decision to Emmanuel Rodriguez, who Naoya Inoue knocked out in the 2nd round of his 2nd bantamweight fight. But Paul Butler, if you look at that fight against Emmanuel Rodriguez, you can see that Rodriguez is the quicker fighter. And, Paul Butler had trouble getting past Rodriguez's jab alone. So the speed, the timing of the jab, and the feints, they were too much for the high energy and, attrition style fighter Paul Butler to really overcome. But again, Paul Butler has, to his credit, won his next 8 fights after that decision loss to Emmanuel Rodriguez. But, rather than go through both of these guys' entire resumes and careers, I can say that Naoya Inoue has now beaten Nonito Donaire twice, most recently in his latest fight in the rematch against Donaire. I set the alarm to wake up. I'm on the West Coast in the United States. I set the alarm to wake up at 3 o'clock a.m. or 3 o'clock a.m. because the fight was taking place in Saitama, Japan. And this was on a weekday, as is this upcoming Naoya Inoue versus Paul Butler fight. That's another thing to note. This is going to be on a Tuesday, December 13th, because again, this fight's taking place in Japan. And in a lot of these Japanese fights, they do take place in the middle of an American work week. So I set my alarm for Inoue versus Donaire 2. And, going into this one, Donaire had beaten Nordine Ubali and Raymart Gaballo, who beat Emmanuel Rodriguez in one of his recent fights. So Donaire was coming off of these 2 knockout wins since his loss in a close disputed decision win, one of the fights of the year. It was my fight of the year for 2019 against the monster Naoya Inoue. Donaire was surging in those 2 fights since, with knockouts over Ubali and Gaballo. And so as soon as this fight started, with Inoue on his front foot, as he often is, I mean, he's always looking to land like big, fast, hard punches. He's doing it in an effortless way, but he's just kind of slowly moving in and just throwing faster and harder than his opponents. And he's got pretty good head movement too. But Nonito Donaire was so hurt from Naoya Inoue that he never really recovered. He was dropped badly, did enough to survive for the next, couple of minutes, and by I would say halfway into the second round was stopped. It was knocked down again and stopped. It looked like a totally non-eventful event by that point where it's like, nothing to see here, folks. Time to go home. And then it's like, damn, okay. So much for that. Nonito Donaire's got a chance in this rematch idea. But this has pretty much been much of Inoue's career, where it's just next guy step up, next guy get obliterated. Like Jason Maloney, who I would pick to beat Paul Butler if they were to fight. Jason Maloney was having a nice surge like in the COVID 2020 summer, and then by the end of COVID 2020, it was October of 2020 when Maloney fought Inoue, and Inoue again made a pretty good fighter, and Jason Maloney looked totally average and knocked him out by the 7th round. So, I mean, quite frankly, I don't know what Paul Butler's supposed to do here. Rather than this being like one of those battles for Undisputed where it's like, okay, this guy's got 2 of the belts. This guy's got 2 of the belts. Something more like a Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez where it's like, oh man, very good fighter versus very good fighter. Let's see what happens. This is more like we've got a monster who is just like rampaging through the division trying to kill everybody. He's just like, kills this person. And then he like turns and looks and he hears like a little cry from like in the corner of the room. And then he turns and then he sees like one person left, like just shaking in their boots, left to kill. That's kind of more what this battle for Undisputed feels like, unfortunately for Paul Butler. Again, he's won most of his fights, but this just appears to be the case where the WBO pipeline, for whatever reason, ended up having a vacant belt up for grabs between Paul Butler and Jonas Sultan, where Paul Butler won via unanimous decision and was later elevated from interim Bantamweight WBO champ to actual champ, so he finds himself in the position here. So, no, this isn't, Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez. This isn't even Canelo Alvarez looking to capture that last belt against Caleb Plant. This is a little more akin to Terrence Crawford having to finish business at 140 with the last guy being Julius Ndongo. This is a little bit more like that. And, I mean, you could look at the betting odds, and these are so outsized betting odds that even if you think that Paul Butler's got this much of a chance of winning, it might be worth just sprinkling something on it because anything could happen in boxing. I mean, who knows? Maybe Naoya Inoue enters this fight with full-blown COVID symptoms, or maybe he breaks his hand in the first round or catches a nasty headbutt and breaks his orbital bone or something in the first round. Even with one broken hand and a broken orbital, I would still pick Inoue to beat Paul Butler. But again, this is boxing and we have seen tremendous upsets. So again, anything could happen. But if you're really sizing up these guys and what they bring to the table, and you look at, Inoue's speed and power and head movement and punch selection and boxing IQ, everything that makes the monster what he is, and then you look at Paul Butler's lack of explosive punching power, like he's got a less than 50%. Look, out of his 34 wins, 15 have come via knockout. Again, out of Inoue's 23 wins, 20 have come via knockout. And they've come via knockout against much tougher opponents than what Paul Butler has been fighting for most of his career. So when you look at Paul Butler's lack of power, lack of speed, again, go rewatch him versus Emmanuel Rodriguez. Hell, go rewatch him versus Jonas Sultan. Again, I think that Jason Maloney is quicker and a harder puncher than Paul Butler. And we saw what Inoue did with Jason Maloney. So when you look at these guys' skill sets, I mean, I hate to say it, but if you don't have enough pop in your glove like Nonito Donaire, or enough speed and power in your left hook, again, like Nonito Donaire, or something to back Inoue up, or if you're not like a sweet scientist, just out of this world technical boxer, or you don't just come with a bomb per punch, if you don't have anything like that in your arsenal and you're relying on work ethic and grit and those types of intangible attributes, in the words of Macho Man Randy Savage, it could go real bad for you. So again, look at the betting odds. Like, rarely do you find like a title fight. I mean, sometimes you do, but these are very lopsided betting odds. I mean, I'm talking, you could find Inoue a minus 8,000 favorite. That means you got to bet like 80 bucks to win $1. Or you can find him at like a minus 3,000, minus 5,000. You can find Paul Butler at a plus 1,300, plus 2,000. That means that if you bet $1, you win 20 bucks for every $1 bet, basically. In other words, the books are giving him little to no chance of winning this fight against Naoya Inoue. So again, anything could happen in boxing, but I just think that this is just the last bit of business at bantamweight that Naoya Inoue needs to handle before eventually going up to 122. And that's really what a lot of people are talking about as it pertains to, again, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport, Naoya Inoue. They want to see him fight Stephen Fulton. They want to see him fight MJ Akhmadaliev. I mean, we'll see if Stephen Fulton stays at 122 versus, I think he might be going up to 126 to fight against Brandon Figueroa, who he already fought in a great fight, close fight, at 122. So we'll see if Stephen Fulton sticks around at 122. But, I mean, wouldn't you love to see Inoue versus MJ Akhmadaliev or Stephen Fulton? So, yeah, let me know what you think of Naoya Inoue versus Paul Butler. Again, this fight is going to take place on a Tuesday, and it's going to take place very early in the morning. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. Does Paul Butler really have any legitimate shot at winning this one? And look, I know that I might have been a little bit dismissive of his chances in this video, but I'm just calling this one like I see it. Again, I could be dead wrong, and Paul Butler could do, you know, the seemingly unthinkable in this case, but I'm going Naoya Inoue via... It could be a 3rd round knockout. It could be a 5th round knockout. I don't see this one going into like the 9th, 10th, 11th round. I mean, if it does, that speaks to Paul Butler's attrition, his durability, his determination, all of those intangibles. It really does speak to that. But I don't look at Paul Butler. Here's the thing. When he stepped up, or it was actually a step up for Emmanuel Rodriguez at the time, and Emmanuel Rodriguez looked a lot more talented than Paul Butler. Paul Butler's 8 opponents since then, none of them have been like top 10 in the division. So it's not like he's been fighting the other best guys, not named Inoue or Nonito Donaire or Maloney or Emmanuel Rodriguez. He hasn't been fighting the best guys in the division, but he has been winning. I just don't think he has much of a shot against Inoue. But please, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.